Hey everyone, Dr. Keith here. So this book is going to have a lot of video examples that will walk you through all of the text and code examples in the book. So I find it's easiest for some students to learn by simply reading and following along, but I think more students actually learn better when they can watch a video showing them how to do exactly what it is that we're doing in class, and then they can pause, fast forward, go at their own pace. So in each of our chapters in the book, you'll find a video or videos throughout each section of the chapter where I'm simply going to walk you through everything we're doing in that chapter. So here's what I want you to do first. Let's just simply go online, and I'm going to search for Google Collab. There we go. So assuming you are logged into a Google account, make sure you do that before we start. Close that for now. Here's where we come to use our cloud-based Collaboratory environment. So I'm going to cancel on this. This gives you this Welcome Python notebook, or Jupyter notebook. So Jupyter is it's a format for writing Python code that's very, very common. And what you get are these little boxes or places where you can write some code. So here's Python code. And we're going to learn about variables in the next class, but I can click in here. This already has the output processed, but I can click in here and hit Shift Return, and it's going to process that code and then print the output down right here. You can see it refresh the number. What we're going to do, we're going to create a new line of code, but if I just click that right there, it's going to create a new one right here where my cursor was. All right, that's not what I want, but notice I have this little window right here where I can delete the code snippet that I'm working on. We could do a couple things. We could start a new file. We could save this file. Let's actually create a new Python 3 notebook. And it's going to bring us right here. There. You see how this kind of looked at the last page, but it's blank and nothing in it. So what I want you to do next is copy the code that you saw back here in My Educator in our book. So we're going to start right here. Now, you could just copy and paste, but I'd highly recommend that you don't. Coding is a type of not just what we call declarative memory, but procedural memory. If you ever take a cognitive science class, you'll learn about these two different types. Declarative memory is memory about facts, numbers, dates, people, information. It's something we memorize. Procedural memory is memory about how to do something, like riding a bike. And research has shown that writing code is a heavy combination of both. So in other words, if you simply watch me code or copy and paste, you might develop some declarative memory, but it'll take a lot longer and you won't develop the procedural memory. The two of those types of memories will work together really well if you actually write things out yourself. So let's start with this. This is a comment. It will be ignored. Okay, let's go back to our new IPy notebook or Jupyter notebook, and we're going to put in the pound sign or hashtag. This is a comment. It will be ignored. All right, if you hit Shift Enter, it's going to process and run that code. But it's a comment. It's going to be ignored. Nothing came out here. So we use this hashtag or pound sign anytime we want to write notes to explain what it is that we're doing in the code. That's a good thing. It's one of the things that we all skip the most as programmers, but is often needed the most too. All right, so let's go back here to My Educator. We've got this keyword print and then hello world, but there's lots of there's text after it and there's some punctuation here. So let's write that very carefully. So keyword print, open parenthesis, double quote, and notice it put both an open close parenthesis and an open close double quote when we did that. Now take a look back here. Is it double or single? Okay, good, it's double. That's important. We want to pay attention to those things. Okay, so it says hello, comma, world, exclamation point. And then there is a hashtag or pound sign after it with another comment. This will be ignored as well. Okay, no problem. This will be ignored as well. All right, now let's hit Shift Enter. We watch it processing, and here's our output now. Hello world. So let's break it down. Anything after a pound sign, whether it's, and it doesn't have to be on its own line, it can be after existing code. That was the point of having both comments here. Those are going to be ignored. However, this word print is part of the Python library. What I mean by that is Python, in all programming code, it uses what are called compilers. A compiler looks at the text we write and knows how to interpret it and convert it into ones and zeros and things that your computer will understand and know how to process. So the keyword print, it's like a function in Excel. There's an input required, and it's going to produce an output. Just like in Excel, when you use the sum function and you pass into it cells you want to sum, and what you see in the resulting cell is an output, this is working just the same. We input this text right here, and then it outputs it down here. Now you might be thinking, okay, I get that, but that's stupid. Why would I ever do something like that? Well, one step at a time. We'll use this command many times, and in context it will make a lot more sense. So for now, let's just save this as it is. Now, down here you'll notice I have another place where I can write code. If I delete that, if I only have one, I can just come up here and click code. I also have this text option if I want to come and make some longer notes that won't be processed ever as code or included as code groups. This is a great way to add documentation that is not in the code. Okay, great. We got that. So back here to our second place that we can write code in, let's go back to our book and see what we got here. Python spacing. All right, in programming there's a concept known as code blocks. Here's some links to learn more. A block of code is essentially a group of statements which are run together. In Python, blocks are denoted by line indentation. Okay, so these lines are indented. That means it's part of this block right here. It comes after this if. Anything that's indented is part of a group of logic that goes with the line right above where the code is indented. So here's a line, or this is a block by itself with no indents. This is another block with no indents. Here's a block that does have indents. So think of these as chunks of code, and whenever you indent, you're saying that this bit of code is part of this chunk before it that's not indented. All right, so the following example shows blocks of code as they look visually in Python. Once again, if you're new to programming, don't worry if you don't fully understand what the following code does. We're going to cover these later, but the concept of blocks will come up many times in textbook. Okay, I think we got it. So let's copy, or not copy, we're going to type the code back into here. Let's say, okay, now what does it say here? The text. The first block should line up with this comment. Okay, perfect. Meaning there's no spaces or indents. The first block should line up with this comment. Okay, so technically they're adding two lines together, A equals 2, B equals 3. They're calling those together one block. I called them 2. That's not a big deal. Down here, though, we have another block. Whoops, no, right there. If A times B double equals 6, okay, let's copy that in. If A times B double equals 6, and then there was a colon after it? Let's go back and take a look. Yep. And now here's another comment. The second block of code should line up here. Okay, great. Now notice, as soon as I hit enter right here, it automatically tabbed in 2 spaces. How far in does it need to be blocked? It actually doesn't matter as long as you're consistent with every line in the block. Okay, so if A times B equals 6, and then we say a comment, the second block should line up with this comment. Now notice when I hit enter, it takes me back there again. Not until I hit backspace twice and start over is it going to know or think that this previous block is done. Now if I delete it, I can always just tab out again or hit 2 spaces and I'm back with the block above, so not a problem. Oops, let me go right back here. All right, so print great news. Print Python knows what 2 times 3 knows that 2 times 3 equals 6. Great, okay. So print this is great news. Print Python knows that 2 times 3 equals 6. Okay, let's shift enter. All right. So all it printed out was this output, what came after the print. So we'll learn later what we're doing here. We call these variables and we have initialized them, and then we have an if statement here. We'll cover that more later on this semester. So all you're learning from this video is how to create a comment, and how blocks are included. Because what happened here is it basically said if this statement is true, which it is, A is 2, B is 3, 2 times 3 equals 6, then do whatever you see right here. If it's not true, don't do whatever you see right there. So for example, if 2 times 3 equals 7, it won't print these things out. So hit enter. Sure enough, it didn't print them out because it doesn't equal 7. All right. So back here, this is enough for this lesson. If you've been able to follow along with all this, awesome. If this is your first time, feel good. You are now a Python master. So anyway, that's all. We'll see you next time.